Exposed Vegan Media Podcast. I am your host, Zsa-Zsa Porter, a wife, mom, triathlete, and vegan chef. On this channel, you'll experience my ongoing docuseries capturing my swim, bike, run, and nutrition journey, featuring all the people I interact with along the way. All right, episode 3 is here. Today's podcast is brought to you by Exposed Vegan Media, a podcast for all humans looking to develop and maintain a healthy lifestyle. I am your host, Zsa-Zsa Porter, and with every episode, there is a learning for me on how best to share this information with you. I am excited to share with you today's topic, IRONMAN 70.3 Texas. I have some amazing guests that I'm going to share with you today. My first guest is a first-time 70.3 triathlete, so I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce herself and tell you her why.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cameron. I am 29 years old, and I am from Houston, Texas. I did not enter the athletic sphere until early adulthood, so I was a CrossFitter turned endurance athlete. I was really lucky to have some incredibly strong women and mentors kind of encouraging me to do things that were what I considered at the time incredibly difficult. So my coach and friend at the time, and current coach and friend, she encouraged me to run my first half marathon, which turned to my first marathon, and then my second marathon. And then as I was training for the Houston Chevron Marathon in January, she convinced me to do a Island Girl Sprint Triathlon in the September leading up to the January race. I feel incredibly lucky because I used her bike, her shoes, her kit. I used her water bottles. I followed her instructions. And it was such a fabulous introduction to a sport that I never knew was something that was accessible to me. Triathlon is a very expensive sport. It's hard to get into. But now for me, I want to show other women and other girls that this is possible. And I'm hoping that as I continue through my own triathlon journey, I can do exactly what my coach did for someone else. I can lend my own bikes once I have more than one, and my own shoes and all of that. And so this has just been a really fun journey to see that I am capable of more than I ever thought. And it's also a really fun look into the inequities between men and women in incredible endurance racing. And so I'm hoping we can just get more women in this sport.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you here today, and I can't wait to tell everyone how we met. Before we get into that, we'll get into my next guest, a favorite person of mine who I stalk and follow after as much as I can outside of, my regular life. But let her introduce herself, and please share your why.
Hello, my name is Khadijah Diggs, and it's amazing, Cameron, to hear you so early in your journey already looking to pay it forward. That's amazing. I did my first triathlon in 2012. I did it as part of an initiative for my sorority, Gamma Gamma Chi Sorority Incorporated, and I fell in love immediately. And then I just started getting a little bit faster and messed around and qualified for nationals, and ended up qualifying for the age group national team. And at the time, I didn't realize until shortly before the race, I was the first Muslim woman and the first African American woman to qualify for the U.S. team. And I've been on a mission ever since to introduce women who aren't typically considered athletes to the sport. Last year, I had the opportunity to coach 3 Muslim women, all in hijab, to the national team, and one of them ended up being a national champion in the super sprint. And it's just been a passion of mine to connect with women like Zsa-Zsa, connect with all types of women, to let everyone know who's been told that they can't, to know that they can. Your journey may not look like everybody else's. You may not wear the same thing as everybody else. You're not the same size, same color, but you can. So that's my why. Just I get a high off of watching people cross the line when somebody's told them they can't.
Wow, I have goosebumps.
Right? I know. That's why now you know why I stalk her, Cameron.
Wow.
So let's get into Ironman 70.3 Texas. So before we get into the race, why don't you ladies just let me know what you did to prepare and what was your journey like just arriving to Galveston, Texas? Khadijah, we'll start with you.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I registered for this race, not looking at the calendar. And I realized in December I was going to have to train through Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. And those of you who are not Muslim may, just to explain what Ramadan is, Muslims fast from sunup to sundown for 30 days. Not even water. Everybody asks me that. Well, you can have, no, not even water. So this is the first year I've had the privilege and the opportunity to train with a coach. She was amazing, Tiancia James with Razor Strong Endurance. She really helped to adjust the intensities and the durations so that I can get through this. And even though I've been a triathlete for a number of years, I've trained for shorter distances and races that didn't mean that much from a qualification perspective during Ramadan, but I had never trained this hard. And I've been very vocal about the fact that I really want to qualify to race in Nice for a race where I had the potential to qualify for something that I really wanted. So my training was good, but it was really hard. I did a lot of training literally with nothing. I got up extra early to get some of my swims started early so I could do at least part of it unfasted, but 95% of my training was done with no food and no water. So it was an interesting journey. Even though my results weren't what I wanted them to be, I went into that race so proud of myself because I didn't even know if I could finish the training, to be honest with you. So I'm about to tear myself up. Good Lord. We're only 5 minutes into but yeah, it was, I asked my coach to do something she had never been through and something I'd never been through. And she hung in there with me. And I missed one workout. I didn't miss any prayers. And for that, I'm proud of myself. So.
We are proud of you too, and I know so many listeners that just listen to that as a part of your why are so inspired. So thank you for sharing that part of your journey. Now let's get into Cameron. What did you do to prepare for the race, and what was your journey like getting to Galveston?
Mine was a little bit different. After I did that sprint try in September, I think I lasted 3 or 4 days before I signed up for Galveston. I was just so excited, and it had always been a bucket list item that seemed so far away. But I was training for a January marathon, and so most of September through January was running. My first time clipping into a bicycle was late December. So road cycling is still very new to me. And January through April, the majority of my training was focused on the bike. And so I had my friend, my mentor, who's done several fulls and many, many halves, put together a really wonderful training plan for me, and I basically just did what I was told. When she said swim, I swam. When she said run, I ran. When she said bike, I biked, and I tried to get as comfortable on the bike as possible. My bike came from Facebook Marketplace. I'm sure I'll have it forever. It's definitely something that I've gotten really attached to, but the training, I was really focused on getting comfortable on the bike because I felt comfortable on the running already. And then as a swimmer, I have a little bit of a swim background. Like we're talking 1 year of freshman high school, enough to feel comfortable with my technique and freestyle and at least not anxious in the water. And so just getting in the yardage and miles, but it was a lifestyle change. I did a lot of eating, a lot of nutrition, trying all the gels and foods. I've always been really passionate about the nutrition side of running, and so it was fun kind of playing with that on the bike too, and getting all of my snacks in. So very different than Khadijah, but I think it went pretty well. Kind of similarly, I wasn't looking at the calendar. I had a wedding the Friday before, and it wasn't just a wedding. It was my cousin's wedding, and it was a wedding that I was in that I had to travel to. So wow. I didn't plan that well, but since it was my first race, my main goal was getting comfortably to the end and having a positive experience. And so I do feel like I was able to work in the wedding and still accomplish that goal.
Well, proud of you both. It's different journeys, but you still made it there, and we'll find out what your race experience is shortly. So
I still have my bike from my first triathlon. I bought it's a Walmart. It was a Walmart Fixie single speed, and I actually raced on it in February. I travel to Cuba twice a year. And for transportation, I'm always worried about transportation when I'm there. So I took my fixie, I raced on it, and I left it there. So it's my permanent vehicle when I'm in Cuba every year. Yeah.
Yeah, you never forget. I don't think you ever forget your first bike. My first bike, I did just give away to a friend who is using it. So a very close friend, so I know where it is. It's my pink bike that Jay got for me for Christmas. That it took me a minute to get on it. I think once I registered for something, which was Try It for Life, and which I'm gonna share next week. But you never forget your first bike. So yeah, you're gonna be in love with it for a little while, I think, Cameron.
Do you name
I think
your
so
bikes?
too.
Do you name them?
I haven't, because I feel like my bike has already lived a whole life. I'm pretty sure it's a 2005. And so it feels like adopting a cat as an adult and renaming the animal. It's like I feel like the bike just is.
And so mine was, I call it Baker's Time. I named it after my best bud, Antonio. And he bakes bread. So I called the bike Baker's Time.
Oh,
yeah.
I like that. I didn't realize that. See, I learned something new. My recent road bike, I named all the other ones and I can never remember the name, but this recent one, my Madone, I've named it Hilda.
Okay.
Just because it's a funny story. My mom was helping me clean the first house I have here in Charlotte, and someone walked in and thought she was the cleaning lady. Right. And they said, oh, hey, Hilda. I don't know why they thought she was Hilda. And in my mind, what my mom was doing was really helping me put everything together, keeping my house together, keeping my mind together. And she was just, helping me that entire day. And now that she's not with me, I just feel like, with this next journey and this experience that I'm going to have, I just want to, just say, hey, Hilda, we're here. We're pulling it all together. And she's still with me, holding the journey together. So this bike, I do remember the name because of the name I gave it and the sentimental behind the story. So, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. I think that ties into the story you told me before the race, too. Up in
I don't
Puerto
even
Rico.
remember because we were... I was trying to get my mind together during the swim. So why don't we go right into the race and we can say how we met. Why don't you go first, Cameron?
Okay, well, I didn't get my chip at registration, and so that is how I met Zsa-Zsa. So I am frantically running around morning before the race. Everyone has their chips. I don't. I was told to go to the swim start, and so I ended up cutting all the pacing groups to get my chip and then kind of wheedling my way back through the groups, and I didn't know which group was which, so I'm kind of just asking, anytime I see a group of pink caps, I'm like, hey, what pace is this? What pace is this? And of course, most people were very fast, and by the time I got to Zsa-Zsa, she said 40 to 44, and I was like, okay, she seems nice. This is the pace I guess I think I'm going to swim, and so I kind of jumped in. And it's funny that you were trying to get out of your head and get ready for the swim, because I really latched on to every word you said, because I was trying to do the same. I think I asked you 50 questions before we got in the water, and whether you know it or not, I clung on to all of those words as just law. You were telling me all these things about staying calm. Everyone's going to be a little more spread out than you think. You're like, don't worry, you'll slap some people, they'll slap you, you're good. And by the time I got to the platform, I felt so much more calm, but I also spent that 20 minutes as we walked up chatting and getting to know some friends. And that really, really helped me more than I think you'll ever know.
Oh, I'm so glad. It helped me too to just think positive and wanting to pour that into a new athlete, or at least the first time for 70.3. I made it no longer about myself and more about you. And that helped me. So I have so many that do that for me. And even when we saw Tony, and I'm like, Tony, first timer here. So I was just excited for you.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So
That was so
I was
fun.
super excited. And he was like, just take your watch off and don't worry about it and have fun for the day. So I think, I was able to not think about myself and pour it into you, which helped me for my race. So thank you.
He said, take your watch off.
He's like,
don't
don't
pay
think about
attention.
anything.
No
Don't pay
worries.
attention to that. No worries about it. Just go have fun. I know. At
Because
first I was
that's
like,
the
what?
cyborg plug-in. You take that off, you're not breathing. Okay. All right. Just check.
Yeah. He was just like, don't worry. Don't look at your watch. Just go out there and have fun. Because when he said that at first, I was like, wait a minute. I don't know if I agree with this advice. But then I realized what he meant. So, yeah, we met on the swim run, which I didn't realize how far back I was. But it's great because I met a new friend. So it was awesome. KD, why don't you share with us how the swim went for you?
Well, the swim actually was pretty just standard. I started back a little bit further than I wanted to, and ended up having to swim a little bit wide. There were a few grabbers. But other than that, the swim was, pretty standard for me. I felt a little bit of current, but it was a very nice swim. The course, there weren't a lot of turns, so it was easy. Once you hit that first buoy, just go for it. And then, by the end of you're almost done by the time the next turn comes. So everybody at that point is pretty strung out. So I liked the swim course. I felt like it was fair for advanced swimmers and, people who were new to the sport. I don't like river swims. I know everybody loves river swims, but I learned how to swim in the ocean. So even though it didn't feel like a true ocean swim, the salt water felt good. But I love ocean swims.
I was using a new wetsuit, which I do not suggest ever. But it was a comfortable switch. I knew the Roka ones that I had that they weren't going to work. They were very tight on my chest. And Khadijah recommended Blue 70, so I just took a chance. Every time she recommends something to me, it doesn't go wrong. So she's she's still on a roll. So I just went for it. We did a practice swim, and I felt good. I think I could have used probably another swim in it, but other than that, I thought it was great. I think I seated myself a little bit too far because I got caught in between a couple of backstrokers and side strokers, and I was like, oh, come on. But not trying to mess up anyone, especially if it was their first time. So had to swim around a couple of people. Like, I get it. So that was a little irritating to me because I was really trying to focus on my form, and sometimes it's hard to do that when you're around a lot of people. I've been working with a swim coach, and I felt good about like the things he had me practice. Mm-hmm. So when I looked at the results maybe 2 days later, I was like, oh, I didn't do so bad. So, be kind. I need to be kind to myself. But other than that, I thought it was a good swim.
Yeah, there's a couple people who I've compared times with. They said for that swim, their pace was probably about 5, almost 10 seconds slower than they would on a normal non-assisted swim. So there was a little bit of current there. Okay. And then and I'm not sponsored by Blue 70. I don't have a wetsuit sponsor. I have had nothing but a good experience with their wetsuits. If you hike them up right, they really have a lot of arm flexibility, and I think they're great for newer triathletes as well as advanced triathletes. I swear by Finis for their swim tools. I haven't used anything better. All of their swim tools are amazing, and the Blue 70 wetsuits I think they're top notch. They're well made. They're top notch.
And I'm trying to recover from a shoulder injury. And so the area under your arms was just, though it was long sleeve, I didn't feel confined.
Yeah.
So, it worked for me. So I'm always sharing things that are new, that Khadijah tells me, go try this. And it did work. So I always want to share with other people. All right.
Okay, I'm taking notes. I'm writing all this down.
Well, you don't have to because we're recording, so don't worry about that. Okay, so going into the bike and transition. How was transition for you coming out of the water, then going to your bike, and then leaving transition and going to on that bike course? Khadijah, we'll start with you. How did that go for you?
Both of my transitions were really fast. I was surprised. Sometimes I kind of lollygag in transition, but I didn't this time. It's pretty smooth. I was close to the end of the rack, so I was able to, and I keep everything attached to the bike. I literally just throw my wetsuit down and I'm gone. So that went really smooth. The bike, that's when Ramadan started hitting me. I started eating 2 days out before the race because I was traveling. Once again, if you're not Muslim, you understand that if you're traveling, you don't fast when you're traveling. So I started eating and drinking, and I thought that would be sufficient to recover, to be able to race. And I had no energy. I couldn't keep any of my nutrition down. I had no power. My watts were a lot lower than I thought. And the bike course is pretty straightforward. I mean, you just power out, turn around, and power back. There's no bike handling skills or climbing required. So, I mean, it's a very basic course. The transition was nice and open. The mount line was wide, so there wasn't any way to get caught up. But I really, and as Zsa-Zsa knows, I like to bike, and I'm a little aggressive on the bike, but I was really disappointed. I should have been at least 2 miles per hour faster on that bike, and I really struggled from an energy perspective. I just had zero energy. Yeah, but it was nice, and it wasn't too windy. I was surprised that it wasn't. Everybody complains about the wind on this course. I'm like, yes, the harder the bike, the better for me, but it was pretty tame.
Wow. Cameron, how did you feel on the bike transition out?
Oh my gosh, I think the favorite part of my race was these wetsuit strippers. Can we talk about that? I ran out of that water, and I think in my head it's like, I took my transition very seriously, so here I am running, and all of a sudden I'm a roly-poly on my back, and that wetsuit was off me faster than I could blink. It was the most magical experience of my life. I was very thankful for these folks, because never before had that been so speedy, and I wasn't quite expecting that. And so I felt like I was going pretty speedy during my transition. I was doing everything the old-fashioned way, putting my shoes on, drying off my feet, and getting out of there, and I was right around 3 minutes. I was lucky enough to have done this bike course twice in my own training, and that's the furthest distance I had ever done. So I had done 2 56-mile bikes, and it was that course, and both times it was incredibly windy. To give you an idea, I'd be going down at 20 miles per hour and coming back at 13. And so I was used to knowing that one side was going to be different than the other. And I was really surprised that I was going the same speed the entire time, the out and the back this go around. And so that was good for me, like just mentally, because I didn't know how fast I was going to go. I'm not seasoned enough to know what that looks like for me, given the wind and different things. And so having that consistency was really helpful. For me, the bike was about grabbing Gatorade bottles on the go and just seeing all the incredible people around me and just keeping my head down, staying in aero, and making sure I was eating and drinking. I brought my own nutrition. I used Tailwind in my own 2 bottles, and then I exchanged both of those out for Gatorade. I think I went through 5 bottles, and I actually struggled to get my second bottle of Tailwind down, and that surprised me. It was something I had practiced with, but it became very clear on the way back that I was tired of Tailwind and my tummy wasn't loving it, and I had been eating several granola bars and stuff too. too. But for the bike, the second or the last third of it was where I started to feel the nutrition side of things, and I had to be really strategic about what I was going to do in preparation for my run to make sure I didn't feel depleted any more than I already needed to be getting there. And so I had to get a little creative.
Yeah, but you got through it.
Yeah.
So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
For me, I was not that excited about my swim because I wanted to be a little faster than Puerto Rico, which was 3 weeks before, and I just wasn't. I think going around a couple of people, and mentally I didn't think I did well. I realized later after the fact when I looked at the little diagram, a little map on Garmin, I was like, oh, I didn't do as bad as I really need to get out of my head and encourage myself as much as I encourage other people, but I wasn't doing that when I got out of the swim until I saw friends. So I saw my friend Jamie. I know there was others near her, but she was the one that I saw because she put her hand out and gave me some encouragement. So that definitely gave me a boost. I got to transition. I was like, get out of your head, just get your stuff together. You're about to have fun on your bike because this is where I've been working. And so I got out of transition, put my shoes on and everything. And then I saw Kim and Ariel. And it's so funny, like a friend of ours, he and was on the podcast, the last episode, he was pointing to my head and pointing, and I thought, I was like, have I been dancing with my helmet so much that I broke it? Like, why is he pointing? And he said, it's in your mind. Get out of your head. Remember Pilot Mountain. Remember, it's all in your mind. And he was screaming that. And I was like, he's right. It's all in my mind. Get out of my head. I'm about to have fun. And then I was just like, all right, let's go. Porter on your left. And like encouraging women as I went by and was like, you're doing great, girl. On your left, on your left. And I felt like I passed like quite a few people, but I just felt good. I was having fun. I felt dialed into my bike. And felt a little bit of wind in some areas, but not as much as I know people have said. So I was like, I'm feeling really good today. And got to the turnaround. There was a guy, he and I were playing leapfrog. I think he growled at me a couple of times, which was kind of fun. So I just kept going up to him and I was like, right back to him. And then when we turned around, he was like, come on, let's go. And I was like, it was just he and I going past. And I felt really good about that part. So I felt like I had a pretty good bike. I felt strong and I was really excited. And I actually wasn't looking at my watch or the timer. I just wanted to go based off of feeling and get as much as I could, because in my mind, again, still in my head, thinking, well, I'm not going to run much because my knee is always hurting me. So let me try to push as much as I can on the bike, knowing that I'm not going to run probably at all. And that's what I was thinking, like push yourself, because who knows how the next discipline is going to feel. So that's how that went for me. So your next for everyone, it's transition. Then it's getting ready for the run. So Cameron, why don't you share with us how the run went for you?
Sure. I had never been more excited to run in all my life. That was a long time to be on the bike. And even though I had done it twice already, I hadn't done it with that level of effort. And so the last 11 miles, I just kept actually out loud telling myself, you get to run. You're about to get to run. Like, you're so lucky you get to run. And so I booked it through transition, and I knew my first mile was going to be hot. And I was telling myself, slow down, Cameron. You cannot go this fast the entire time. And what's funny is I'm smart enough to be able to look big picture now, but leading up to race day, I kept telling myself, you can run marathon pace for a half marathon, and especially on race day. And so I was looking at my January full marathon pace, which was a big PR for me, like an 8:50 pace. And I was like, I can do that race day, especially with race day energy, with all my friends there. You've been working hard for this. But I forgot to tell myself it was going to be at noon in Texas, in the middle of the heat with the sun beating down, not 40-degree January weather. So I went out hot. I was so excited. I did manage to run the entire time. And once I managed my expectations, I'm super proud of the pace I was able to keep. Every mile except the first mile was mostly consistent for me. And it was super wild doing the Moody Gardens 3 laps. I don't know if this is something unique to the Texas 70.3 or if this is everywhere, but the triple loop of the course, but it not being a real loop, made it very weird when you see people because you'd see a friend, you'd get excited, but you have no idea if they're half a mile ahead of you, 3 miles behind you. And so it was like playing peekaboo with all these strangers. And I started to see all these people that had passed me on the bike. And I felt like that's when the community of the 70.3 really came together. And it was neat because it's like we were all doing it together. We were all in competition, but you didn't know at what point everyone was on the run. And so I think probably like most people, the second lap was very demoralizing, knowing that you still have one to go. And so I just kept telling myself, get through the second lap and then give it your all the last lap. And that's what I did. And that ended up being pretty consistent pace to the end. I did not run marathon pace, but I mentioned my nutrition snafu, and I really fought to make logical choices, not choices based on what I was feeling, like knowing I need this. I was walking the aid stations. Yeah. And it was like I high-five every person. I'd take the water, I'd dump some ice in my sports bra, I'd swig some Coke, I'd swig a Gatorade, and if I needed to take a goo, I would. And I did that every aid station. And the ice was an absolute savior and not something I knew that they would offer or that I would need. But overall, I was really proud. Just getting through that run, it was very different than any running race I'd ever been a part of. And that's not something that I expected as a first timer.
Yeah, the run is always. And Zsa-Zsa can attest to this. Races are the only time I don't wear a training bra because I keep it packed with ice. I offer other people ice. Yeah, I got some. You need some. That's so. Yeah. That's exactly what I do. I pack it with ice. I don't like to carry stuff in my hand, so everything is in my bra, and I do totally self-supported, so everything is shoved in my shirt, and I slow down every other aid station, keep it packed with ice. That's important for the hot races. Yeah, that's good. You have the marathon strength too. I've never run an open marathon. The only marathons I've ever run have been after biking 112 miles. So
yeah, I'm realizing they're very different.
Oh yeah.
Super different, but no, I think it definitely helped me. If anything, it got me excited for the run.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your experience, Cameron. Katie, let us know how transition off the bike and your run went for you.
My transition was pretty fast, especially considering I went to the restroom. So that was, I still got out of there. I believe it was right around 3 minutes. Which wasn't bad considering I went to the bathroom. My run was a death march. I literally had I had no energy. I just ran from aid station to aid station. That's literally what I did. Kept everything packed with ice. I tried to take a little bit down on the run, and as soon as I crossed the finish line, I vomited all of that up. It was just not one of the things I do. For me, I don't think that I will do. I know that I won't do anything longer than an Olympic during Ramadan again. I don't think your body adjusts to absorbing nutrition again that quickly. I think you need at least a week to, and even I talked about with Kelly on the, Kelly and everybody on If We Were Riding, she was saying that even the protocol for wrestlers who have to diet down to a weight, it's 10 days. They diet down and then they eat for 10 days before they wrestle. So that was something, it was a learning experience. So.
Wow.
So needless to say, I didn't get my knee slot, but Zsa-Zsa knows I don't give up very easily. It took me 3 tries to make the U.S. team, so I'm not going anywhere. It took me 7 years to get them to change the rules for hijabi athletes for USA Triathlon and World Triathlon. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm not.
Wait, will you expand upon that?
So before 2024, every race that I went to, I had to inform the race directors that I was coming and basically ask for permission to race, because I race fully covered in hijab, long sleeve. And I thought in making the U.S. team, I would be covered, but no, I'm not. This still went on. There were times that I would show up in my Team USA uniform and still not even be sure if I was going to be able to race or not. So finally, after years of petitioning World Triathlon and petitioning USA Triathlon, this year with the 2024 rules, they do have guidelines for women who race fully covered, whether it be for religious reasons or for health reasons.
Wow, that's incredible.
So it's I'm not a loud pom-pom shaker, but I'm not going anywhere.
And wherever you go, I'll be right there.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing next?
Yeah, Zsa-Zsa. And I mean, to be fair, Zsa-Zsa's talking about, she feels like what I've given to her, she's given me a lot as well, and helping me to change just how I eat on an everyday basis. I mean, we initially met over talking about fueling, but it got into what do we eat all the time? And watching Zsa-Zsa transform her diet, even though my diet I don't think is definitely not up to the level that hers is at. She's changed how I eat and how I feed my family, and I'm very conscious of that. So she's on my kit. I have Exposed Vegan on my kit, because if you see someone on my kit, it's, they are people that I'm down with for good. I'm not putting somebody on my kit who's a fly-by-night.
Question. Do you recall in the middle
Yes.
of the run
And
when I asked if you were Zsa-Zsa?
said, no. I was about to say that. Do you remember when
That
you
was
met
me.
She said,
Oh,
are you
that's
Zsa-Zsa?
so
And I was like, I was on my last lap. I was in a
I was
bad
on my
mood.
last lap.
And I turned around, I looked at
so
her.
funny.
I said, Zsa-Zsa's in a Varlo kit. Bye.
That is so
Yeah, on the
funny.
out, I asked if it was Zsa-Zsa, and on the back, I didn't know what you said when I was running back, so that's so funny.
I said,
But I
she's
had met her in a
Varlo
wetsuit
kit.
with a cap on, so I had no idea.
She only met me in the wetsuit and a swim cap.
Yeah.
So she had no idea of what I was wearing, because that's where we met. So that's so funny. That's so
Wow.
funny.
Yeah, but I saw Exposed Vegan, and that's what
you
you told me
remember.
about that
Yeah.
morning. So funny.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny. I didn't want to forget your name, so throughout the swim, I kept saying your name over and over again so that I wouldn't forget. So I would know to look you up so you could be on the podcast. So that's so funny. But I'm glad you remember.
You were
that.
probably easier to find. The Exposed Vegan was pretty easy, and
Yeah.
we made it work.
Well, I'm glad.
How funny.
That's so funny. For me, the run, I thought again that I wasn't going to run much, and I ran for 10 miles. I only walked the aid stations.
Nice.
I know. I was so
awesome.
surprised. I did not think. I only walked through the aid stations. I took full advantage of water and ice. I didn't need anything else. For those who don't know, I use F2C nutrition, and fully on the bike. So I fueled up so that by the time I got to the run, I was actually just able to just do water and ice. I felt really good about that. But then at mile 10, I was a little hungry, so I took a bar, and then it just went to shits after that.
No
but
solids.
nope. And I didn't feel good, but I ran. So I was proud of myself. But like, I saw friends, I got off the bike, and I was like, well, let me just, see what happens. And I just started running, and I was like, let me find out that my legs feel good. My tummy doesn't hurt. I don't feel overheated. So I'm just going to see how long I can do this. Mile 1, I was good. Mile 2, up to mile 10, and I took something, and I was like, okay, I know for the full that I shouldn't do that. I'll figure out the nutrition strategy for that, but I felt pretty good, so I'm excited. I just think my biggest issue is I just have to make sure I get out of my head and just trust my training and keep moving.
That's incredible. And how'd your knee feel?
I didn't have any pain. I've lost
Good.
a couple pounds since last year. So, I think that had a little bit to do with it. I cooked for myself, and I made sure that my nutrition was good. Staying there, I stayed in an Airbnb, so I didn't do any foreign food. So I stayed on plan. There was a couple of people that I wanted to see that I didn't get a chance to meet up with, but I was just trying to stay on plan, and it paid off on race day. So I was super excited about that.
That's awesome.
Cameron, why don't you share with us like how it felt to go through the finish line for your first 70.3? Like walk us through that experience.
Oh my gosh. Well, the thing about this loop is that you get to pass that finish line twice before it's finally your turn. And by the time it was finally my turn, I mean, there's a picture of me, like tears in my eyes, hands in the air. It's crazy how 6-7 months ago, this seemed impossible. Absolutely impossible. I could not fathom the amount of training. I could not fathom just the distance and the time and the preparation and everything that went into it. And on top of that, all the people that helped me get there, my partner, my coach, my friends that were all believing in me when I wasn't sure what to expect. Oh, I was absolutely milking that finish line for all it had to offer. Just absolutely unreal. I've done a lot of fun races, and I think there's only this and my first Houston Marathon that made me feel this way. Like just accomplishing something that just a few months ago seemed absolutely impossible.
Yeah. I've done, road races, and I have done quite a few marathons. Chicago, I think, is my favorite, and then probably New Orleans because they offer you shots on the course. I don't take them, but I just think it's funny. Like, what are you guys doing? But yeah, I think that there's just nothing like the triathlon community, especially when you get to the run and people are suffering. Like, we're just in it to like, let's just get there. We trained, we paid for this. So let's just make it to the finish line. And there's always such camaraderie, I think, on the run. We may be beating each other up in the swim, but the run, I think there's a lot of camaraderie there. If you're not a probably pro triathlete, but actually I've seen a bunch of pros where they just like, there's camaraderie there too. So, I just think there's nothing like a triathlon and the community. So I'm so glad to welcome you to 70.3 community.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It's wild.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. So what's next? Like, would you recommend this race to other people? And what do you think you're going to do next?
Oh, I absolutely would. I think it's super beginner friendly. I felt like I was able to digest all the parts of it. The bay was super nice to me. I think I was expecting a giant open ocean just because it's saltwater and it's connected to the ocean, but the bay felt fabulous, and it was honestly better than any open water training I had done. I think for me, having other humans in the water actually made me feel more comfortable, because what I'm afraid of is not the people, but the other stuff in the ocean. So having all the people with me actually gave me a sense of comfort. All the people fighting it out for first place got to fight away the sharks, and the bike is very easy, the out and back, and Moody Gardens was just full of people cheering us on, except for that one stretch with the little hill and the sun, but it's pretty short-lived because of the 3 loops. If you're anywhere near driving distance, I highly recommend it as a first race. I think it was a fabulous experience and really well run.
Yeah, I traveled to it from North Carolina, and I thought I stayed maybe 5 minutes from the race. I did an Airbnb, and I thought the town was nice. I thought the people in the town were nice. I'm not sure if they get as much tourism. I think they do now because I asked Uber, how is tourism there and how is everything with the community. And I think now that cruise ships pass through there, they're getting a lot more visitors, and crime is down for them. So yeah, I highly recommend it too. I had such a great time, and I met great people. So yeah, you included. You wanted to share with us what you're thinking about doing next?
Yes. Okay. So it's funny. Before the race, I actually told you the 3 full Ironmans that fit within my schedule for the year. And the first thing you said was, Maryland has jellyfish. And so I went into a deep, dark Reddit, Facebook, Google hole, figuring out everything I could about these jellyfish this weekend. But I think right now, I would absolutely love to sign up for my first full, just because I'm in a chapter where my job and my lifestyle right now would allow me to do the training. And the thing about triathlon and Ironman is that it's a big commitment outside of work and life. And I don't know what my life's going to look like in a year or, 18 months. And I do know what my life's going to look like in the next 16 or 6 months. And so I would really love to find a full within this calendar year. And I'm sitting on the fence. I'm really thinking about signing up for Maryland and swimming with the jellyfish, but we'll see. If I don't end up doing one this year, I bet you can find me at Woodlands next year, because that's also about 30 minutes from my house. And it's about a year and a week from now. So I have lots of time to get comfortable on my bike and figure out what's next.
Yeah. I mean, I like Maryland, except for that jellyfish part. Both Khadijah and I have had a jellyfish issue. I think I mentioned to you that I had a friend where the jellyfish was in her mouth.
Yes.
That was KD.
That
you
was
did.
me.
Oh, I heard that story.
I had them in my ear. I had the little tiny ones in my ears.
Oh my gosh.
It was, yeah. I'm not gonna, let me keep my mouth shut.
I mean, it's the shortest part of the race. So that, that's the thing, you got 112 miles after that. It's just 2 miles of the swim. So, other than that, the run there's people all over the course. People can see you multiple times to give you that boost, because you do need that after 112 miles. So having, an area that is very spectator friendly, I think is important for a full. So, that's something I mentioned. And the bike is not tough with it. It's 2 loops.
Yeah.
So it's flat.
It's kind of like Texas. It's flat and windy. But that Maryland and Alaska are the 2 races I'll never do again.
Because the jellyfish. Okay, noted.
Yeah. But, I mean, we both did well. So, Okay, Khadijah, we're going to go back because I'm not sure what happened. But can you just let us know what finish line was like for you? And then would you recommend this race?
Well, I don't know if I would, for someone doing it for the first time, I think it's a great race. Somebody who's looking for an extreme challenge, no, I will be back because I know I can do really well on that course. And I don't think I gave myself the best opportunity to do well, simply because of the choice that I made. I'm glad that I did it though. The finish line was really great. I mean, everybody was super supportive. I liked the way everything was spread out. I was happy to be there. I'm sorry for the volunteer that I vomited on. Please forgive me. Yeah. And I did and also, like you said, I stayed at an RV resort. For those of you who don't know me, I took an old ProMaster and I turned it into a camper, a little bit slightly before the whole van life thing got popular. So I don't have a $200,000 camper van. I have a $20,000 me and 2 11-year-olds fixed it up van. But I travel and live out of my van. So I pulled my van up next to an extended part of the bay at an RV resort. And that's where I lived. And I had a great time. I met some amazing people at the Galveston RV resort. I had everything I need. And that's kind of how I live and train. I drive up to the lake and stay there for the weekend a lot. But I like races like that where I can just pull up, live my life, and then drive out. So I'll go again. And definitely, like, if I'm coaching somebody who's new, it's a course that I would take them to have a good experience.
Yeah. And I think from a coach's perspective, you would be able to see your athlete quite a few times. Yes. So, I would recommend, if you're taking someone out, you'd have to work them through the winter season, to be on their trainer and things like that. Some people don't like to train during the winter. All right. Well, thank you, ladies. I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your journey with our listeners. I look forward to sharing the course with both of you throughout the year. I'm sure we'll see each other again, Cameron, because now we're friends. And Katie, I'm following you around everywhere, so I'll see you in a couple weeks, especially in May, several times.
Yes.
So that is it for episode 3. Again, thank you to my guests. Hopefully you all got a lot of great information, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye.